This is Vladislav Roslyakov, and only seconds ago, he planted something beneath the table in the busy university cafeteria. But for Vladislav, this was just the beginning. Vladislav, moved by his dark idols, the Colleen shares, carried out his plan in 3 well-thought-out steps. A student named Vladislav at the Polytechnic University of Kerch in Crimea, a region disputed by Russia and Ukraine, had not spoken to anyone for 2 weeks. His classmates were a little worried, but didn't think it was too strange. He had always been shy and quiet, with no friends and a distant relationship. But in recent weeks, he seemed even more alone, as if he was thinking about something else, a dark and carefully thought-out plan that only he knew about. He had never been an open person, but there was something strange about his silence. A week before the attack, a very disturbing recording came to light. Some say that Vladislav had planned to carry out the massacre that very day, but lost his nerve. In the video, he is seen wearing the same clothes he would wear on the day of the attack, which was not a coincidence, but on purpose. Even scarier are the stories going around the university about creepy encounters his classmates had with him. The first story starts during a philosophical discussion in class, where everyone was paying attention. Suddenly, Vladislav raised his hand and said, "Humanity doesn't deserve to live. The world would be better off without so many people." The room got cold, and there was quiet in the class. People looked at each other, but no one knew what to say. The next story is from a classmate who remembers a scary event. He once saw Vladislav at a cybercafe watching videos about school massacres. When asked why, Vladislav replied, "I'm just interested in how those people thought." As Vladislav grew more isolated from his real life, he began to spend more time in the digital world, where he found something that fed his dark mentality. It was a school shooting in which 24 people were killed by 2 students who were fed up with how unfair life was for them. It didn't just interest him, it drove him crazy. Every aspect of the 1999 attack became part of his own story. He didn't see Eric Harris and Dylan Cold as criminals, but as mythical figures who had defied a world that had ignored them. He learned about them through videos and forums. Vladimir carefully planned the attack based on everything he learned about it. Besides being criminals, Vladislav saw them as kindred spirits. Like him, they had been left out, bullied, and rejected, and most importantly, they wanted revenge on society just as much as he did. No one could have known that after weeks of silence, Vladislav was planning a similar attack that he thought would show how angry he was at the world and bring back the same hell that Colleen had set free years before. The night before the attack, Vladislav felt a strange calm. Even though he was only 18, he had legally obtained a pump-action shotgun and more than 150 rounds of ammunition. But the bullets weren't the scariest part. The real darkness lay in what was to come. Vladislav was inspired by his Colleen idols, and he didn't just want to go on a killing spree, he wanted to destroy. In the dark of his room, he carefully put together improvised devices that would detonate, filled with shrapnel, screws, nuts, and metal pieces meant to cause the most damage. After putting everything together, he went to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would be his long-awaited day. On October 17th, 2018, students walked around the university grounds waiting to enter, but none of them knew that the person walking among them had come with the intention to carry out a deadly plan. Vladislav went straight for the back door, without the metal detectors because this time his backpack didn't have books in it, but a shotgun and explosives. Vladislav had carefully planned every step of this day, but once he got inside, he didn't rush to do anything. Instead, he seemed lost, like the weight of what he was about to do was too much for him, and he wandered aimlessly up and down the hallways, as if he was questioning his own plan. Finally, he stopped near the cafeteria, sat down, dropped his backpack on the floor, and waited for 7 minutes straight. During those minutes, he thought about the first of 3 steps in his plan. The first step was simple and clear. Go to the place with the most people to do the most damage, which was the cafeteria. He was smart enough to know that walking in with the gun could be dangerous, since it was a shotgun and not an automatic gun. He thought that someone nearby might try to stop him or take his gun. To avoid being seen, he would sit down, take out the bomb, attach it under the table, start the countdown, and then walk away. There is still smoke in the air, and the kids are frozen in place, some shaking. The deafening silence that follows the explosion makes the once bustling space feel like a nightmare as destruction unfolds around them. But before the explosion, Vladislav took off his jacket, showing an outfit that looked a lot like what Eric Harris wore during the Kolin massacre. A white shirt and black pants that were a tribute to his heroes. While Harris and Cold also used explosives, theirs weren't as effective with just that one explosion. 15 good kids died in the cafeteria, but things were going to get worse. Vladimir went to the bathroom to get ready for the second part of the plan, which was to start shooting. Anyone still wandering the halls and living had only seconds to get out of there, because if they didn't, they would soon be Envy the Dead. Soon, Vladislav found his first victim, Professor Moino Alexander. Alexander may have been trying to figure out what was going on when he ran into Vladislav in the hallway. Without hesitation, Vladislav raised his shotgun and fired, leaving the professor dead on the ground. Vladislav then went upstairs to find his next victim, Luda, another one of his professors. Luda would meet the same fate as Professor Moino. At this point, neither the students nor the faculty fully understood what had just happened. There had been an explosion, but no one knew it had been planned. That was about to change, though, as panic spread and gunfire could be heard throughout the halls. Everyone knew there was a shooter on the loose, and their only goal was to get away.
Stop.
In the video, however, some kids and teachers were able to get away, but they were the only ones. Christina and Vita, two best friends, weren't as lucky as they thought they would be when they desperately tried to escape. They were sure they wouldn't run into Vladimir, but fate had other ideas. When they turned a corner and saw the danger they were running from, they realized they had been terribly wrong about how safe they thought they were. By this time, Vladislav had already killed 20 people and hurt 70 more. He knew that the police had been called and were on their way to find him, but before the third pea haze, Vladislav stopped. Instead of going on with his plans, he chose to take one last walk through the now empty halls of the university. He walked slowly through classrooms and hallways that used to be part of his daily routine, but now felt strange and ghostly. What was going through his mind in those last few minutes? The third part of his plan was about to start. Heroes of Vladislav. In the same way that the Colleen killers had killed themselves in their school's library, Vladislav made his way to the library, determined to carry out his plan to the very end.